Welcome to the Find Your Feminine Fire podcast. I'm your host, renowned sex and relationship coach Amanda Testa. And if you are looking to reclaim your sexual desire, take sex from a to-do to something you look forward to, and enjoy deeply connected relationships without adding more to your already full plate, then you are in the right place. Listen in to discover how to fan the flames of your feminine fire, fall in love with your sensual self again, and experience intimacy like never before, all in a way that feels really good to your system. Make yourself comfortable and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the episode. I am your host, Amanda Testa, and today we are going to be kicking off this 6-podcast episode series all around sex, creativity, and power. Today is around igniting your life force and really understanding the sex and creativity connection. We want to open the flow of sexual energy, of creativity, of our desire and feeling our libido back online and wanting to actually enjoy our intimate relationships. This is a key point. We have to feed our fire, so to speak. And so today we're going to learn a bit more about that. We're going to explore the connection between sexuality and creativity is life force energy. Going to talk a little bit about Chinese medicine and their perspective on life force energy, the role of neurotransmitters in sexual and creative experiences, and how we can turn on our own light, some practical exercises around doing just that. So welcome, make yourself comfortable, and we will dive into the episode. So what is the nature of sex and creativity? How are they so intertwined? Well, they are both expressions of our life force energy. And this is simply the aliveness that flows through us. Because we are alive, because we are breathing, we have this energy in us. And the more that we can cultivate it, and there's actually practices, there's actually things you can do to cultivate this energy, the more it will flow freely, the more it will do its job in supporting us. However, what can often happen is that because we might be blocked, because we might be feeling just like in a funk, you've been in those times in life, this is what can happen. Your sexual energy and your creative energy are one and the same. It's that vital spark that flows within us and makes us uniquely ourselves. So you can think about it as kind of this wellspring. It's just this wellspring deep inside you. And this is the source of our life force energy. In Chinese medicine, it's cultivated in our sexual organs and our kidneys. And when we can tap into it, again, we can encourage it to flow through different channels. One is your sexuality, one is your creativity, but it's all the same energy. And you can think about it like this. If you've ever been so fully present in the moment, maybe in the throes of passion and a beautiful, intimate experience, maybe notice what you feel in those experiences, right? That sense of aliveness, that feeling of connection to something greater than yourself. That is what we're talking about here. When you are in a state of creative flow, when you're losing track of time doing something you just love to do, you feel that same surge, that same aliveness, that same connection. Because whatever you're making, you're tapping into that source. If it's love, if it's art, if it's parenting, if it's work, if it's being creative in your sales presentations, it's really that creative life force energy flowing freely within us. However, because this energy is so interconnected, blocks in one area often manifest as issues in the other. We are holistic beings, so we have a block in one area of our life. Often it's showing up in other areas as well. Let me give you an example. Have you ever gone through a period where you just could not get into the mood sexually, where physical intimacy felt like a chore rather than a joy, right? The to-do versus something you wanted to do. If you look closely during that time period, you might find that during that same period, your creative juices weren't flowing either. Maybe you were stuck. You couldn't find inspiration. Maybe you felt really stagnant in your life. Maybe you felt like you were just on a treadmill going through the motions. And the reverse is also true. If you do have a creative passion, or you are a creative entrepreneur or CEO or high-level executive, like many of my clients, often the creative blocks can also manifest as sexual issues, right? So if you're feeling creatively stifled, you might notice that your libido takes a hit too. It's all connected. This is why that practices that help you tap into your sensuality can also boost your creativity and vice versa. It is so fun how this happens. And often when we think about tapping into more pleasure, we immediately go to sex. But when we can really tap into anything that gets that energy flowing again, you can focus on different areas that get that energy flowing, and it will translate into your sex life or your creative expression. So while we're going through this 6 weeks, I'll encourage you just to pay attention to the ebb and flow of your energy. Notice if there's a correlation in your own life between your sexual energy and your creative energy, and just see how they affect each other. And I'm going to also share more practical ways to do this in just a moment. I want to share a little bit about the neurobiology behind this, the role of neurotransmitters in our sexual pleasure and our creative energy, and how it's all linked together. Because dopamine drives both sexual desire and creative expression. So you've probably heard of dopamine. It's the feel-good neurotransmitter, and its primary role is in both sexual arousal, creative expression. It's known as the reward chemical in the brain. It increases motivation, focus, and pleasure. And research shows elevated dopamine levels during both sexual activity and creative pursuits. So when we do these activities, we're increasing this feel-good chemical in our bodies. So what does this mean? Dopamine is released in anticipation of reward, and sex is a prime example of such a reward. The brain associates sexual encounters with pleasure, and thus dopamine is released in response to sexual stimuli, often driving desire and motivation. Dopamine is also linked to novelty-seeking behavior, right? So when we pursue something new, something novel, this can trigger dopamine release as well. So this is why often when we engage in new creative endeavors, or just following our desires, following what lights us up, it can also in turn light up our sexual desire. Similar to its role in sexual desire, dopamine acts as a reward system for the brain when we generate a novel idea. Right? When we generate something new within our brain, it interprets it as a potential reward, which can lead to a dopamine surge. It drives our curiosity and exploration of new possibilities. And this intrinsic motivation is essential for creative problem solving and generating new innovative ideas, which we certainly need nowadays. And also, when we pursue something new, there's often risk involved. And so this also can be associated with the potential for reward. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about serotonin, which is a mood stabilizer. So this also contributes to feelings of well-being and happiness. And we need balanced levels. That's really crucial for both sexual satisfaction and creative flow. Too much serotonin can dampen our sexual desire, and too little can lead to more of a hypodepressed state, affecting both sexuality and creativity. We also have norepinephrine, which is the alertness booster. It increases arousal and intention, heightens sexual pleasure and creative focus, and helps in forming new neural connections, essential for both sexual experiences and creative thinking. Also, the beautiful bonding hormone of oxytocin. I love oxytocin, and I'm sure you're familiar with this as well. This is released during orgasm and intimate touch and even hugs. And it increases as well during creative activities, especially collaborative ones. Promotes these deeper feelings of connection and trust, which is so important when we want to have deeper sexual connection and creative experiences. Then we also have endorphins, which are natural pain relievers that are released during sexual activity and intense creative work. So these produce feelings of well-being, of euphoria, that flow state-like experience. And we have GABA, which is the relaxation neurotransmitter, reducing anxiety, promoting relaxation. Acetylcholine, learning and memory. So there's so many different things that go on here. You don't need to know in super key detail, but just to kind of give you the main point is that the interplay of these chemicals create the optimal state for both sexual and creative experiences. So the balance and interaction of several neurotransmitters is what we can enjoy more of. And everyone's neurochemical makeup is different. Right? This is why different people have different sexual preferences, different creative preferences. We are all unique. And we also really are creatures that need connection. And when we can engage in sexual and creative activities, it can change our brain structure over time. We have neuroplasticity, which is an amazing thing, which means we can actually change the way our brain functions. We can create new neural pathways and enhance our overall brain health and pleasure and body health, right? It's all connected. When we engage in pleasurable activities, such as creative activities that light us up, when we engage in sexual activities that light us up, we are releasing these neurotransmitters, which creates this cycle of reinforcement, right? So then we want to seek out more and more of those experiences, creating a positive feedback loop. And maybe you know this in your own life. I know for myself and my husband, when we go through periods where we are connecting a lot and we're having great sex and we're having a great time, we want more and more of that, right? We just want more and more. Alternatively, if we're in a cycle that's more of a winter or disconnect, then you're less likely to want it because you're not getting that reward circuit triggered. And we just want all these things to play in harmony, like a beautiful orchestra, so that we can enjoy our experiences even deeper. And again, there are so many different aspects, but I just wanted to talk about that because I find it so fascinating how the science backs up the power of pleasure. Hey, it's Amanda. If you are enjoying the show and felt a connection to what we've discussed, and you're ready to take the next step in reigniting your passion and enhancing your relationships, I have something special for you. Visit www.amandatesta.com/thegoods, where you can subscribe to my email. And if you want, you can sign up for a free personalized sensuality discovery session with me. In this one-on-one heart-to-heart session, we'll explore your unique desires, uncover any challenges, and set a path for you to experience the vibrant, fulfilling love life you deserve. Don't let another day pass feeling unfulfilled or disconnection. Take action now, and let's start this beautiful journey together to fire up your feminine fire. Join me at amandatesta.com/thegoods. I'm excited to stay connected. Now back to the show. So what do we do when we find that we have low libido, or we're having creative blocks, or we're having just a lack of zest for life? We're feeling like we're just on the treadmill, blah. You know that feeling. We go through that, right? So some of the common reasons that we get disconnected from our sexual and creative selves is just the fast-paced lifestyle that we lead, unhealthy habits that our culture kind of leads us to often because we don't have enough time to invest in ourselves and all the things that we need to take good care of ourselves, eating well and moving our bodies and all the things that we need to do. We have a very sedentary lifestyle, many of us, because we're sitting at computers all day. That's also taxing on our pelvic floor, sitting. There's just so many different things that happen that keep us disconnected. Also, we're going to talk more about this in future episodes, just how experiences that might happen early in life affect how we show up, shame, cultural conditioning around sex being bad, dirty, wrong. Also, like creative endeavors, you're not going to make any money. This is no way to spend your time. You need to be productive. Does that ring a bell? And I'm sure all of us, well, not all of us, but I know speaking for myself, I know I have specific memories of times where my creativity was shut down from a teacher. And you might have similar experiences, right? We have these experiences coming along where we might be pursuing something that is lighting us up or creative that might not feel productive to the outside world, but actually it really is. Because the more we can connect to these flow-like states through sex, through creativity, through expressing ourselves in ways that make us feel good, that make us feel at home in our bodies, the more we are able to bring those ideas, the new ways of thinking, the inspirations into our daily lives. That makes a huge difference in how we show up for the people we love, for ourselves. One of the things that I love to use as a tool when we are thinking, okay, great, I know that I need to reconnect to these energies, but how do I do it? How do I do it? What do I do? One of the things that I find really important is that we can put ourselves into a state where we think about something and maybe we close our eyes if that feels accessible, and we can really transport ourselves into that experience. And when we are in that experience, our brain doesn't know whether it's real or whether it's imagined. So when we can put ourselves into imagined experience, often our physiological responses will shift. So for example, if you put yourself in the environment where you're thinking of a time where you were super relaxed. I have a recent one in mind because I was just at the beach last week celebrating my birthday with my family. And so my husband had a conference and we were tagging along. And I just had this moment on the beach where it felt so like the temperature was perfect. The breeze was blowing. I was under the shade of an umbrella. I was watching my kid have a blast playing with some other kids that she made friends with. I looked over and Mark's taking a nap next to me. It was just one of those moments where I felt so content and happy and good in my body. You know, I was rested. I was hydrated. It felt amazing. And even as I think about it now, I'm noticing my shoulders relaxed a little bit and my heart and breath kind of took a deeper breath. I felt like my heart rate slowed a little bit. I took a deeper breath. And that wasn't even happening in my real life around me, right? But when we can put ourselves into those visualizations in whatever way is accessible for you, often it creates a change in our physiology. This is why practices are so important. Practices are great things that we can do to nourish our pleasure, our creativity, our well-being. And so just as the exercise I just shared with you, we can reflect on past or present sources of excitement and inspiration, times where we felt really good, times where we were enjoying our lives. And when we think about those times, we can actually shift our physiology a little bit. And what I would encourage you to do, you can kind of do a little inventory of the things that spark you up, a spark inventory, if you will. And you can think back to the things that energize and excite you. This helps to identify patterns that you can go back to again and again for what stimulates your sexual and creative energies. And then you can kind of create these resources to go back to, a toolkit, if you will, to reignite your passion or your creativity when you feel stuck or uninspired. And when I'm speaking to pleasure, the reason I like to put it under this big umbrella is because it is also connected. And sometimes pleasure can feel really hard, right? The thought of having sex or being intimate or touching your body can feel really hard. But maybe the thought of grabbing a pencil and scribbling on a page doesn't feel so hard. Or the thought of maybe taking a walk and exploring somewhere new in your community doesn't feel so hard. So this is why, because when we can get that spark flowing, it expands in all areas and it's really powerful. So I'll invite you to think about that. Maybe some past experiences that really lit you up, that made you feel really good. Notice what you felt like in your body, what felt great, what felt calm, what felt exciting or arousing. And you can make these memories of times when you felt most alive, creative, or sexually charged. And remember, maybe what were the contexts around that? You can also look at present experiences. Maybe there's certain people that light you up or environments that light you up. Maybe there's potential things that you're curious about exploring. And this is such a great thing to write about. What are the things that I would love to maybe experience? And just giving yourself the opportunity to think through that is really powerful in allowing your brain to play, allowing yourself to experiencing something new. And there's also really great ways that are simple and easy, as I always speak to, like these simple and easy little practices you can do where it doesn't take much time, it doesn't take much money, it doesn't take much effort, right? Simply putting on a song that makes you feel alive and just move, right? Don't worry about your choreography or looking cool. Just let your body move how it wants to move. And this really just encourages you to explore with different kinesthetic movements. When we do something new with our bodies, that also encourages our brain to think differently. So there's so many different ways you can do it. And really, when we think about what makes us feel alive, what turns us on, it is living a creative and exciting life for many of us, right? We want to be doing the things that make us feel good. We want to be contributing in some way, whether that's to our families, the people we love, ourselves. And when we can tap into our sexual energy, our creative energy, we feel more alive. That's what turns our feminine fire on. That's what gets our juices flowing in all the right ways. And I am excited to delve more into this over the next 5 episodes. But just to recap for today, I really would encourage you to think about what are the ways that you most find exciting to be in flow, right? Is there a memory, something that you recall from the past? Maybe a time when you felt super turned on or creatively inspired or happy. Maybe there's a specific memory. And if it's hard for you to visualize, if it feels hard to visualize, then you could even maybe draw a picture of it or write about it. Or something I love to do, because I'm not a big fan of journaling. I mean, sometimes I am, but it's a challenge sometimes to write. Sometimes I love to just do voice memos. And I have an app called Temi, Temi, where I record my thoughts and it transcribes it for me. So if you're more of a audio expressionista, then you can record your voice that way. And you'll be able to identify the patterns so that you can remember, okay, these are the things that in the past have worked to help me feel better. Or these are the things that now, when I'm around these people or when I'm doing these things, that makes me feel good. Or, I'm really curious about doing this. What would I be curious to explore? So often my clients, when I'm talking to them, when we first get to working together, they have a hard time tuning into what they want. And I have one client in particular who she was a high-level executive, had 3 small children, and was busy, very full schedule, right? And had all these aspirations at one point in her life, but was kind of in the thick of it with parenting and trying to just get through the days and really missing that connection to herself. And so through our work together, she started realizing, okay, here's some things that I really want to do again. And one of the things that she ended up doing was starting painting again, which seems small, but actually it was huge for her. It radically transformed her schedule to be able to create time for that, which in turn led her to feel more inspired about all areas of her life, which in turn helped her to be able to dive in fully to practices that also led to better sexual experiences, and learned how to use different ways to speak her needs so that her partner could meet those and that they could have even more fun together. And I just share this because so often people are like, well, that's easy for so-and-so, but not for me, or how will they make time for that? But that's the thing. Through the work, you actually can create new ways of being in your nervous system. You create new ways of being in your body so that things that used to stress you out don't stress you out as much anymore. So that when everything felt like an emergency or urgent, you have a better capability of really discerning what is really urgent and what is not. Like everything feels like an emergency sometimes in life. When you're in those states of really overwhelm, everything feels like an emergency. Everything feels like it needs to be done right away. And that is where we struggle. So I'll invite you for this week. You can go to amandatessa.com/thegoods and download the worksheets that go along with this 6-week party here. And we will look forward to seeing you in the next episode. All right. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to the Find Your Feminine Fire podcast. If you loved this episode, please go ahead and forward it right now to someone you know would love it. And if you've not had a chance yet to leave us a rave review on Apple Podcasts, please make sure to rate and review if you enjoyed it, as well as make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you want to stay connected, make sure to go to amandatesta.com/thegoods to download your free sensuality activation and stay connected. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.